Hello again. The Executive Mayor of EThekwini Mxolisi Kaunda has visited various areas affected by floods last month. His visit was to assess progress made by the city in repairing infrastructure and restoring basic services such as water and electricity. We're joined by Mayor Kaunda for more on his visit as well as future plans. Thank you very much, sir, for availing yourself this afternoon. Perhaps let's start with that in terms of a progress report following your visit this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Tutuzile, for having us, and good afternoon to all the viewers at home. Yes, today we conducted visits. We started with the Maran Ridge, our power station, which was severely damaged, and the estimated cost to restore the activities in that power station will amount up to 45 million rands. But we are working very hard and tirelessly to ensure that the communities in the areas which were affected in the western areas, they are already accessing electricity as we speak, since we have put our temporal measures to ascertain that communities, they do access electricity because it is one of the required services in the areas that you are servicing. So, but we also conducted a visit in relation to those who are housed in our shelters, to check on the conditions where they are living and what are the immediate needs whenever the government is required also to action so that we become responsive to their plight as people who are located in those sites. So we have had interaction with the community in both sides there, and we also committed ourselves that we are working flat out to ascertain that areas like Tongat, the restoration of services, especially water in that area, will be able to restore water, although the community must also bear with us that they only have the water for 4 hours so that we manage the flow of water in the area whilst we are still fixing the major infrastructural challenges that we are faced with. So therefore we appeal to communities that we must work together, especially as we'll be also distributing, issuing the vouchers for rebuilding of their houses. Those who will be accessing those vouchers, they must use those vouchers strictly for rebuilding their houses. But we'll be putting more stringent control in terms of where people are going to rebuild their houses. There is land that Human Settlement is securing, working with the National Department of Human Settlements and the Provincial Department to ensure that we do not give people vouchers where they'll go back and rebuild in river banks and also in the flood areas, which will also put their lives into danger. So those are the things that we are doing. But those who will be located to our temporary shelters, transit facilities, of which some of them have been built and families have taken occupants to those facilities, will continue to respond to the plight of those communities that will require to be housed in those facilities.
I'd like for us to expand on that last point in terms of people who have been housed in shelters. Just from the visuals that we are seeing, right, from the reports that we continue to bring to our viewers on the ground, people literally sleeping on mattresses and living with people that they do not even know, not ideal living conditions for these people. In terms of the 1 billion rand flood relief fund that is supposed to be rolled out by a national treasury, that not being rolled out, of what consequence is it in you actually doing the restoration efforts, if you will, and speeding them up?
Yeah, definitely when people are living in such conditions, in community halls, in churches, the situation is not going to be the same because these were the unprecedented floods that we received in our city. So therefore, we could not prepare for housing people in decent places, but community halls are mainly used to ensure that there is a shelter, and that shelter guarantees safety because safety comes first. But the compatibility of these facilities, definitely, they won't be responsive to the needs of each and every individual. But what we are doing as we speak is that we are repurposing some of the funds that have been given to us as a municipality so that we become more responsive especially to the issues of housing those communities that would need to be housed. Part of the money that we have repurposed, you recall that in 2019 were attacked by other floods, so that money has been repurposed to look at the recent floods so that we are able to respond, especially to the communities that they are really in dire need of shelter during this period. So we have not received any billion rands, as you know that MSC for Quota and MSC for Finance will be liaising with National in terms of how do we then access such a funding. But repurposing of other funds, of which we'll also be doing it responsible to ascertain that we do not make the communities who have been working for a long period for houses, that they will then go back to the list to the queue of those who need houses and their houses to be built in our city. So we'll be working with the national department and ensure that, and provincial department, and ensure that whatever resources that are made available for us, they will be used solely for responding to these floods.
The Deputy President yesterday speaking of building better for KwaZulu-Natal. There's been a lot of criticism that has been leveled against the city officials in terms of poor flood warning systems, in terms of poor climate adaptation and outdated infrastructure. So taking a look ahead, I guess, what kind of conversations are already being had about the future of the province and fail-proofing it, if you will, for lack of a better term, while we do appreciate that this was a force of nature or an act of nature, there is something that you can do, no?
Yes, if you look at the magnitude of the damage that have occurred in our city, it shows you that these were the unprecedented floods that attacked us. But we do have some systems which we need, of course, to be improved, the early warning systems, so that we are able to get exactly what must be expected in the city. But part of the interventions that we have agreed upon is that we'll be calling a climate change summit, which will address some of these challenges and also look at our own concerted efforts that we have put in place as a city to be responsive to challenges that are presented by climate change. We have developed our own climate change action plan. We need to conduct assessment as to how far are we going in terms of the issues of mitigation and adaptation to ensure that we become more responsive to the challenges of climate change. So that is on the card, and we are going to meet with different stakeholders to put our systems in place and different spheres of our government so that we have a solid plan that will make us to respond better in the situations of this nature.
Does that include taking advantage of the blue economy? The word has been bandied about so much by many officials, and I do wonder perhaps in terms of the province, while you speak of water shortages, you are surrounded by the ocean. What of taking advantage of the blue economy?
Yes, ocean economy is critical for us to leverage from it, but we are putting some pilot projects. There are plans which have been established working with different stakeholders to try and look at the possibility of what you are saying, to source water from our ocean. So that is being piloted so that once we see that we are ready as a city with all the facilities that are required, we'll then be able to execute it as expected.
If you could please, sir, give us some clarity. We are reporting at least that 60 people are missing, and there's search and recovery efforts that are still continuing. Just in terms of the number of people that are still missing and the number of people that have been reported to have died.
Yes, the last numbers which have been presented by the Honorable Premier and the MEC is 395 people, fatalities, and 60 missing people in the city. So we are still working hard. Our search and rescue teams are out there to ensure that the communities are being assisted. But we know that it's going to be a big challenge because the mudsliding that have taken place and the volume of mud really makes things difficult even for the teams to move quickly to identify other bodies. But we are hopeful that with all those interventions, we'll be in a position to assist families to find closure during this difficult period. And we also put them in our prayers to try and live with this pain that it has been exposed to.
The Mayor of EThekwini, Mr. Mxolisi Kaunda, thank you very much, sir, for availing yourself and speaking to us this afternoon.